Hey guys, it's Troy. Welcome to another episode. Sometimes you have to break the rules in order to win the game. Sometimes you have to break the rules to win the game. In August 2019, Boris Johnson, advised by his assistant Dominic Cummings, went to the Queen of England and asked her to prorogue Parliament for a period of 5 weeks. Okay? Proroguing the Parliament basically means to suspend Parliament for 5 weeks. This was an unprecedented amount of time, and it was a completely unexpected move that nobody saw coming. The reason attributed to why he did this, or why him and Dominic Cummings chose to do this, was because the United Kingdom was just about to leave the EU. If you guys know anything about Brexit, the Brexit vote, incredibly controversial. Yes, the vote was won, but by a very small margin, and there was a lot of argument about how Brexit should be enacted, etc., etc., etc. Boris Johnson chose to close down Parliament, effectively shutting down any debate or scrutiny just before the UK was about to leave. All right? Obviously, there was a lot of pushback to this move, and in the end, in September 2019, the Supreme Court ruled the action to be unlawful and void, and it was nullified. Okay, so Parliament reopened. So, but what it did mean was that for about 4 weeks, Parliament was closed down during a particularly sensitive time where MPs and government officials could have debated the intricacies of the Brexit agreement and, you know, maybe thrown more sticks into the spokes of the wheels, if you like, and cause more problems for Boris Johnson and his administration. Okay, so what he did, as I say, in the end was deemed to be unlawful, but it wasn't. They had to take it to the Supreme Court in order to get there, and he was partially successful because Parliament was closed down for a period of time. He did something that wasn't expected. He did something that wasn't in the gentleman's handbook, if that makes sense. Okay. Now, because Britain doesn't have a written constitution, but it's sort of based on precedent, and it's sort of based on, this is the way we normally do things, chaps. Nobody really saw this coming, okay? Now, I've always found that incident fascinating because it's a great example of a sort of Machiavellian tactic whereby you could do something that is in a grey area, okay, and get away with it and get the outcome that you wanted. All right. Now, if you look at, say, President Trump and his administration, you'll see this kind of thing happening in the United States as well. Okay. Sometimes you have to break the rules a bit in order to get the things that you want. And I think one of the problems that men have today, and probably women too, but this is mainly directed obviously at men because it's a men's dating channel, is we think that we have to follow all the rules. We think that we have to follow all of the niceties of society, all of the prescripts that have been laid out for us by polite middle class society. But sometimes that doesn't serve us. Sometimes we need to be prepared to break the rules. Now, just to make this absolutely crystal clear, I am not condoning law breaking in any sense, and I'm certainly not condoning anything involving violence or anything involving actual harm to another person. What I am saying, though, is that I think that a lot of us are socially hidebound by ideas about how we should properly behave, ideas that have come from the culture, ideas that serve probably the many, but don't necessarily serve you in the situation that you're in. Okay, so for example, if you find yourself in a toxic situation, in a workplace situation or in a relationship or something like that, you know, there are certain expected ways to deal with that. You sit down, you have a polite conversation, you put your point of view across, you try to negotiate for better terms. But sometimes it's better not to do that. Sometimes it's better just to blow the whole damn thing up, okay? It's not expected, it's not polite, it's not how most people act, but it is akin to what Boris and Dom Cummings did with the proroguing of Parliament, okay? It was a sudden, underhand move that wasn't expected but was effective, even though in the end it was deemed to have been inappropriate. Okay, I hope you can see the parallel. The point is that too many of us are rule followers and not enough of us are rule breakers. And once again, I'm not talking about breaking the law, but I am talking about going against polite, accepted behavior, because a lot of the time those ideas, those notions of, you know, how a polite, well put together English gentleman should behave just don't really serve us. Okay, what would Machiavelli do, right? You know, what would Nietzsche do? If you read Will to Power by Nietzsche, what he talks about a lot is obviously self-transcendence. It's becoming the Superman version of ourselves. And how do we do that? Well, sometimes we have to burn the house down in order to get to where we want to be. Okay? Obviously, depending on what situation you're in, this advice is going to hit differently. Okay? But if you're stuck in a situation that isn't empowering you, if you're stuck in a situation where you know action needs to be taken, but you're afraid to take that action because you're worried about how it's going to look, or how other people are going to think about you, or how society is going to perceive it, you should put those ideas on the back burner, okay? Because in the end, this is your life, all right? In the end, this is your life, and you are dying 1 minute at a time. You only have a finite amount of time here, and polite society, quite frankly, can go and fuck itself if it's standing in the way of the things that you want. Remember Zuckerberg, right? We build quickly and we break things, okay? We build quickly and we break things, okay? You've got to be prepared to break things sometimes in order to move forward, all right? Hope you got something from this one. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment below. Let me know what you think. Give me a like, etc. Subscribe to the channels if you haven't already. And if you're interested in coaching with me, drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, email address below. And I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.